Juan O'Savin, it's been my great pleasure to know you face to face. You're not John F. Kennedy Jr. You and I share a love for America and President Trump and restoring power to the public. And you have told me you've got 10 or 15 minutes worth of updates for people that not only will overcome the doubt that was raised by some who have spoken negatively, but also give folks a sense of what's happening in the next 2 to 3 weeks or the next couple of months. Please just tell us what you want to tell us and we'll stop.
Well, I think, I've talked to a number of folks, other influencers, and there's a lot of people that are just really just hand wringing to the moon because they think we haven't got this, it's all over, that the things that are in play from the new administration are it's going to be the end of America. And the reality is what you're being allowed to see is who these people really are. It's even like where there was this feint going on, like the hearings right now in Congress were going to be over sometime today. And suddenly new witnesses are being brought forward to try and finish this conversation, this impeachment trial, and make it go a certain way. The reality is they're playing for time because they know that they're not winning on the numbers with the American people. They're certainly in their bubble, they're winning. They believe that they've got this, but the broad response from the public in a generic sense is that this is just charades, which it is, and that they're not convincing anybody of anything. They've already played this game. And so time is running out for them. From a military perspective, you have to let every civilian option be played out all the way. Courts are next. So from the congressional side, is there any real crime here? Not showing up. Is there something that hasn't been dealt with in the court side? Well, we're going to get a chance with these Supreme Court here on the 19th and the 26th. But at the end of the day, if there's nothing there that they can act on to reverse this stolen election, then it's going to revert authority. Their responsibility there is going to revert to the military to protect America from a foreign attack that was originated offshore outside of America. The revolution to flip that back begins here. This isn't about civil discourse in America, civil war in America. Our enemies would love for that to be the case. That's not what's going on here. This is about a revolutionary war against a foreign enemy that's trying to take over our country externally. That enemy is defined as globalists, international banking cartels, bloodline families, intelligence agencies, and their operatives working together in collusion, people that purport to be our friends, trying to enslave and control America by owning its leadership. And that's not going to stand. And, one of the things I just went off with one of the influencers this morning over a reaction I got on something from last night, and said, look, you have got to chill out, calm down. You cannot go off half-cocked because you think that the enemy's got us. They don't have us. This is a big country. It's a lot of people. There's a lot of places. And you're in this little tiny liberal bubble out on the West Coast where you think that that's everything else in the country. I just drove across the country. You go fly over the country, see how big it is. You can go out to Florida. They're taking their masks off and they're not putting them back on because they're not going to fall for this lie any longer. There's almost a statewide, we're done with the toy playtime. And that's going to continue to move out across the country. And people are waking up. Entire segments of our government are waking up. And
wait, let me jump in. I want to make one point and ask a question on that because that's very important. Number one, you haven't mentioned the fact that the two-party tyranny worked together to stab President Trump in the back. And the GOP raised tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars for Stop the Steal and didn't spend a penny. defending the president. Now, talk to me about parts of the government that are waking up. That's very interesting.
Well, when I say that, it's really kind of a state by state thing, because the governors are where that power wields from primarily. It's just like what happened in South Dakota with the governor there. You have outposts of freedom, if you will. My buddy Gary Hunt's website, great guy. I love the guy. In fact, if you haven't had him on your show ever, you should have him on sometime. But these states, it starts as a trickle. It's going to become a flood because the American people are, it's like Toto has pulled the curtain back. And, you know, one thing, let me just say this, I'll get you banned off of a few websites for saying this or something, platforms, whatever. The whole Q community has done an incredible service to America and to the world. They show these pictures, these GIFs, various memes that are laying bare what's going on behind the scenes with the COVID, with the data about the lies about how this is spread and who's dying from, you know, COVID
Juan,
cured the common flu.
Let me jump in and ask you, Alexandra Bruce, whom I admire very much, there's a whole bunch of people out there defaming various Q supporters. And I appear to be Teflonized right now because they know I've got 3 major law firms that are ready to go. But is it true that the FBI declared QAnon to be a domestic terrorist, or is that misinformation?
Yes, that's been in play for several years now.
So as someone who supports Q, does that make me a domestic terrorist?
That's the assertion, yes.
That's fascinating. Should I turn myself in? Should I go down to FBI?
By the way,
headquarters?
you want to talk about insanity. Anybody that showed up on January 6th in Washington, D.C. has to be tracked as a potential terrorist, should be put on a no-fly list. Are you kidding me? You go look at the video, the movie that I did with Jennifer Mack, The Called, The Makings for a Perfect Day.
Yeah, no, I'm good.
The end of that movie is that crowd.
My lawyers and my wife would not let me go into DC, so I'm good. So look, I'm seeing some suicides here, and Mike Flynn just posted a list of CEOs that have stepped down. We've seen a whole bunch of foreign leaders stepping down. You and I have talked about the possibility that there's going to be some very interesting stuff going on in the near future. Why don't you close this out with Juan's predictions for the next 2 months?
Well, as we get through the last ditch efforts in the civilian side with Congress and with the courts. Once that is all played out and they haven't successfully responded to this cyber attack, this Pearl Harbor cyber attack on America and on our vote, then that responsibility will fully rest on the military. Now, the military is taking a standby approach. They're yielding ground, but you have to consolidate your effort to that responsibility didn't fully fall on their shoulders until the swearing in occurred on January 20th. I've spoken about that more extensively other places. But at the end of the day, if other methods don't get us to protect our shores, protect the country, the Constitution, the Republic, protect the American people from a foreign attack, you can have war by other means. A digital attack is still an attack. It can be lethal.
Juan,
it's designed to shut us down.
I don't want to downplay the domestic enemies of the United States, because as a military officer, I swore an oath to defend the Constitution against all enemies, domestic and foreign. I understand that Congress has asked the military to remove the National Guard from Washington, to remove the barricades and the armored cars, and that the Pentagon has refused to do so. Is that accurate?
Part of that, apologize there. I had a call.
No worries.
Nothing is moved. And by the way, Cheyenne Mountain is still locked up tight as a drum. No advisors are in there looking over anybody's shoulders. We're under a militarized, fully defensive situation. in a
would you call it a dual? Would you call it a dual or tandem government in that you're allowing the fake administration to proceed, but the military is basically locked down?
Well, yeah, you're giving them room while we work through the mechanics of deciding how to respond and allowing the civilian government to protect us. From a civilian side, Congress and the courts, they've been inadequate at this point in time. And by the way, Trump is not staying as president. He stepped down and went down to Mar-a-Lago. However, after the military does its investigation, vets the data from that January 19th Director of National Intelligence report that came a month late concerning foreign interference in the election. If the courts and if the Congress are unwilling or unable, because they're compromised, captured, to protect the Constitution and the Republic, then that responsibility, the last trigger, is the military. And they have already been triggered. They have to do their own internal analysis of every single detail, vet every single detail in that report, verify it. And then once you've done that, which has already occurred, decide what's the proper response, because according to military code 11.3 and 4, they have to then protect the country first, the republic, the Constitution, and then they have to, as quickly as safely possible, restore legal civilian authorities to power.
Right.
And that's a process. It's not instantaneous. It's not just, we signed a piece of paper and it's off to wherever.
No,
there's
I'm
a process
totally...
that has to happen here, and there's a lot at stake. It's not just the U.S. and it's not even who's controlling the military. You can't kill the country to save the country. So you have to allow room for everything to keep moving, everything to keep flowing. And if you do have to stop anything, it's just like putting a tourniquet on. If you keep it on continuously, I had a friend that was had his legs blown up in a situation on the borderland beside him. The only reason he still has his legs today is because they cycled blood flow through that area while they had the tourniquet on there to keep him from bleeding out femoral arteries. We're in a very serious situation, and there's a lot of finesse going to be required here. People cannot go off the handle and be pissed off because it didn't happen in a heartbeat like a TV episode. Everything is in play here.
Let me jump in, Juan, and say that on my website, I'm calling for all Trumpers to hold their fire, to not go to the capitals, to stay home, to not do any kind of violence. This, I think, is Q's most important contribution, to have kept everybody from going crazy. Now, there's a rumor that a number of government officials have been asked to go home on the 12th of February and not come back. Have you heard anything about that?
I've heard it. You get people that are trolling all over the place. There's some validity
so trolling,
to portions of it.
That's a fair one for trolling. Do you have any final comments for us as we end these 15 minutes with Juan?
You know what? Let me just tell you something. I bear with me,
yes,
Robert. But I think this is an interesting thing. Back when it was, even before candidate Trump announced that he was running for the presidency, when it was being floated out there back in 2015, I said several times in presentations that I did that the president should do certain things. And I want you to compare what you're seeing right now around DC to what I said in the book. And this is taken from a interview that I did almost 2 years ago now, but I had said the same thing all the way back in 2015. Let me just read a paragraph for you and tell me what you think this sounds like. This is from page 49 of my book. We have a long road ahead, and I don't think that Washington, D.C. can really be cleaned up. It can't be fixed because it's already fixed as a rigged game. My advice to President, that has a nice ring to it, President Trump, is that he hire all his contractor buddies and have them come get together as much fencing materials and heavy equipment as they can possibly muster. Then bring it all to DC under the protection of U.S. Marine Corps Guard units utilizing close-in air support. They should proceed to surround DC with multiple layers of chain link fence and concertina wire, like we did at the city of Fallujah in Iraq. Simultaneously, we need to have all available military and armored National Guard units surround the city at the Beltway.
When did you write that?
I said that the first time in 2015, in the fall of 2015. I've said it multiple times, and it's in my book, and that's from a presentation I did about 2 years ago.
That's just epic.
Well, and is that what you see happening?
Yes, I mean, I drove through Washington, and I love Amazing Polly. She's one of the few people that combines deep research with extremely good video editing skills. And she talks about Washington as the world's largest open air prison camp. I'm feeling good, Juan. I'm feeling really positive. Now, I'm doing 4 movies that you have been kind enough to notice, and in fact, you're funding one of them and may fund the other 2. What do you think about the way in which I'm connecting election fraud as how you get a dishonest Congress, which allows Wall Street treason and crime, and it's all held together by satanic pedophilia? Do you want to make a comment on the 4 movies that I'm putting together?
Well, at this exact moment, the public is just now coming awake to what's really going on. The curtain's being pulled back. They're seeing these connections, the control mechanisms that these globalists are using, Satan himself is using to control our political and oligarch class here in America, the Hollywood people, to that propagandize us, do the MK Ultra programming at a national and a global scale. Those networks are key, because that's the boot on the throat of these people to do what they're supposed to do. And they do some of these things because they believe that they're not just human, they're more than human. And so it's a way of showing.
You're talking about satanic pedophilia, the trafficking and torture and murder and cannibalization of children, and the drinking of adrenochrome as a drug.
Right, because part of the thing is, this is a really important point. Why would they do such a thing? Because they have this law of the jungle mentality. And the way that the king of the beasts would happen then is that they would go ahead and would feed on the rest of the animals under them. That's how they show that they're the king of the beasts, the top of the food chain. And so they're literally operating in a way that shows them to be the top of the food chain by literally feeding on the other animals.
So just
that's the way they view us.
Now, just to clarify, because Juan O'Savin, whom I know personally to be a man of great substance and I don't want to say influence, but great substance and value. Let's leave it at that. You are saying that satanic pedophilia is the core aspect that we need to take down as part of taking down the deep state.
Absolutely. These are Baal and Moloch worshipers that you see in multiple societies. Yes.
That's all I need. Do you have a last word before we do one of our epic short Juan interviews?
Well, you do a very unique style, and so you challenge me every time. So yes, I do. I've invited you. I have a private showing of a very important film. I want to tell you something. No, I want to tell your viewers something. I have a very private showing of something that's coming at some point later in this whole situation, that's going to expose what's going on behind the scenes with this crowd. And these documentaries that you're doing, that people that we have funded are doing, are critical in plowing ground and preparing the way, because this conversation has to be had. It may not be comfortable for people to talk about this, but this is the way they're controlling not just America and our leaders, but across the globe, leaders across the globe. This is where the fight is. If you cannot defend the innocent, the children, the young women, if you cannot defend the innocent, then there's no reason for you to get defended. You want God to bless America. God, take care of us, watch out for us. Well, if you're not doing anything to protect the children, And the small people that are weak, that are unable to do it themselves, then you don't have any right to be defended.
Let me
Real
ask you
men need to
direct.
show
Let
up
me
for
ask
this
you.
fight and protect these children.
I'm totally with you on that, and I never expected to be at the intersection of election fraud, Wall Street treason, and crime and satanic pedophilia. It's either divine providence or I'm just an accident. Everybody asks me, show me the evidence that children are being rescued. What do you say on that point?
There's times during the course of this type of work that you don't give away the details, but there's even in the regular news, all you got to look is what's happened over the last several years. Multiple of these operations have been being attacked. Where do you think the lead agent from the FBI that was looking at the Hunter Biden laptop was at when he was killed the other day? And one of the other FBI agents at the same time, they were going in to take down, to take into evidence materials at one of the largest pedophile core operations in the world down there in Florida. And, that was going after pedophiles.
Let me ask you this question as a professional intelligence officer who has on very, very rare occasions done crash and bang stuff. Why did these guys go into such a high risk environment and stand in front of a door so that they could be
Why
mowed
did
down?
somebody suggest that should happen? How were they baited into doing that? Something's wrong there in that whole scenario. And
So this was a setup. This was a setup.
I personally am not satisfied that we know the full story there. And I'm certainly anytime with all the equipment, all the people, all the expertise we have, look, it's like the comparison I'd use, it's not a perfect comparison, but this setup that occurred down at Waco, when you had these people go in a very ill-advised way, doing grandstanding. And then you have very comfortably, conveniently, key persons that had been from the Clinton security detail killed while they're doing that.
They were shot from the helicopter. They were shot from the helicopter. You know, Juan, what really strikes me as an even better contrast is these poor FBI guys, and my heart goes out to their families. They're set up like this, whereas on the other hand, you had Roger Stone get the full enchilada, including an amphibious unit behind his house in case he tried to swim away. So there's a real contrast here. Do you have any final words for us, please?
Everybody needs to take some deep breaths. Cut the crap about nothing's happening. A lot is happening. If you don't know everything that's happening, thank God that the key people in key positions aren't giving away all of their next moves to everybody. You're in a war. Understand that and act like it. Everybody needs to close ranks, stand firm, take some deep breaths. We're a lot bigger than these monsters that we're going after. The only thing is we can't be disheveled as we do it. Straighten up your blouse, straighten up your uniform. We're going after them. Hold together.
And stay home and be nonviolent. Juan O'Savin,
absolutely.
I owe you at least one filet mignon and a good scotch, and it is an honor, sir, to know you. Thank you.
Yes.